All right. We are back for another banger live in the Counselor's Corner. I'm your host, David Lorenzo Glover, aka the Controversial Counselor. Joining me as my co host, the Big Bad Wolf, Herb Lewis. That will sound like he on one tonight. Welcome to our discussion on the evolution of parenting on tonight, Monday, April 28th at 9 p.m. The title is Generations Apart, Parenting Styles Compared. As we explore the differences between baby boomers and Gen Xers parenting styles, we will examine how societal shifts, cultural norms, and changing values have influenced the way we raise our children, from the authoritarian approaches to nurturing philosophies. We'll dive into the contrasting methods that have shaped generations. Join us as we explore the lessons we can learn from both eras and how they continue to impact parenting today. Please like and share our video, and don't forget to tell a parent to tell another parent to subscribe to our YouTube channel, The Controversial Counselor. Sitting on 946 subs, no progression made this week, no harm, no foul. We must keep working hard to get there. So here we are. Yeah. Um, another episode, another weekend that flew by. Hell, another week that flew by. It's just getting crazy, and this show is stuff that I probably question on a day-to-day basis after working in education for over 30 years, and especially in public school where I've been there going into my 21st year, the start of the up and coming school year. So I've seen a lot to deal with, to understand the changes that have been made and the different parenting styles and the things kids say or don't say, but it's just crazy. And I could give you an example before we get going. I had a young lady came in my office today, and she was like, but I had a new student there, and then I had another student waiting for me, but she just came in because my secretary was at a professional development. So when she's there, she's the master gatekeeper. So they know that they can't get through there. So she just came strolling in, and I'm like, yo, not right now. I'm busy. And then she was like, oh. Uh, and the reason I could take it because they're disrespectful, the things that they say, but you got to be able to give it back to them, but not in that type of way. Like I wouldn't cuss anyone out or anything like that. But she was like, oh, oh, that's how you acting like that. Then she kind of mumbled like with your bald head self. And then she's like, keep that same energy later. I said, oh, I'm gonna keep that same energy, and I hope your grandmother had that energy when I make that phone call. She's like, oh, okay, Mr. Glover, okay, Mr. Glover, okay, Mr. Glover. I was just playing, but stuff like that roll off their tongue so easily, and it's kind of part of the change that has happened. That even with cell phones, that these kids are given free reign to kind of say anything, and they'll be the first to tell you, "Oh, I can kiss it. I can cuss in front of my parents." So, prime example. Another example. Then I let the wolf come in. One of my students was like, "Yeah, Mr. Glover, I was in the car with my mother, and she was like, what's on your mind right now?" Because I guess she got in the car, had an attitude, and the mother's like, "What's on your mind? Go ahead and say it. Go ahead and say it." And the girl said, "I said, I just wish you would shut the fuck up." And I'm like, wow, like, wow. And stuff like that roll off their tongue so easily. And, the parents give them that free reign, and then they think they could say that to everyone. And, and then there's usually no repercussions when, a teacher try to get in their ass, or counselor or administrator, they still, nothing, there's really barely seldom any repercussions. So the behaviors don't change. So that's just a small example of some of the things that have changed.
Yeah, there's in addition to that, what I've seen, in the few years that I've been in the school system as a volunteer mentor is that, like Dave said, is they don't deem it necessarily as a lack of respect. They deem it as, if you are going to teach me, you have to be able to take the reins to lead me. And it's almost like breaking in a wild horse or a wild stallion. And that's their culture. They don't, like I said, they don't mean any disrespect by it, but it's a language that adults, especially Gen Xers, um, boomers, have to try and kind of figure out on the fly. This is why you don't see a lot of older teachers, and you see some Gen Xers. They're like, I can't deal with this. Their parents can't stop them. I can't stop them. The administration doesn't have an answer for them. And it's like, where do you draw the line at allowing them to be free to express themselves, which I think they should, but you have to rein in how they do it. In other words, give them instructions and let them build. Don't tell them how to build, because it seems like that's when they become resentful, and the old adage, you ain't my daddy, starts to surface, and then they end up in school suspension, or even worse, suspended, where they're really not learning anything. So it's a it's a winding road that we're gonna attempt to try and navigate today, and hopefully give people some insight and some pointers as to how you can hopefully relate to your children, and hopefully, if you have any, your grandchildren.
What's going on, Victor? Thanks for joining us. I see you dropping jewels on a daily basis on your
Hey, Vic.
platform.
Yeah, man. Hey,
Keep it up. Got to keep coming at their necks all day long. So, that was just one of the things. So when you think about baby boomers, you think of them being the uh, authority figures. Like that's the way many of them put it down because of their parents, and they emphasize obedience and respect for authority. And that was one of the things. Like you don't disrespect older or elderly people, but at the same time, they were all, we were also taught like we don't disrespect them, but we'll let your parents take care of it. Like they wanted you to
right, yeah,
come to them with that, but you never get disrespectful. They'll handle it because you shouldn't be talking out of turn to an adult. Uh, and that's the way we kind of grew up thinking. And so when you see, like Herb said, a lot of teachers, older teachers, well, once they hit a certain age, they say, I'm out of here. I can't do this no more. I put in my time. The game has
hmm
changed. It's not fun anymore. It's like it's babysitting. I'm here to be a teacher, not a glorified babysitter. You're dealing with behaviors. If the class is 50 minutes long, probably 25 of it is dealing with sit down, repeating yourself. Can I get a pass to the bathroom? No, we got to get started. Uh, such and such hit me, whatever. Put your phone away. Take off the hood, take them earphones out here. So you're doing that a great amount of time. And I can tell you, when I go into classrooms to teach our lessons, I'll be like, well, I'll be so damn tired after teaching like 5 classes during that time. And I always tell the teacher, y'all can have that. And every time I come here and do it, I had the utmost respect for y'all, the ones that y'all do this every day 5 times out of the week, and I only come in every couple months. But that those times I come, because usually I do it a stretch of 2 days in a row, I'll be like, man, I can't wait till this shit is over. Be counting down the periods, whatever. Like it's just too much repeating yourself over and over and over and putting out fires. So that was one of the big things that stood out because when we went to school, Granted, there were some kids that, don't get me wrong, they would cut up, they would cut a fool, and get detention. It used to be the same people on a regular basis, but I don't. It wasn't. It wasn't. It wasn't constant. It wasn't an everyday thing. Some days they'd come in and those 10% of the kids that really kind of run the school, they would have their moments, whatever, that they had some times that they would just be chill. They would be quiet. They might have not did a damn thing, but they wouldn't bother nobody. See, these kids got to get attention and everything. They just can't come in there and sit quiet. Like, I don't care about this shit. I don't want to learn it. They got to get other people attention. They got to rope people in. They need an audience all the time. And back in our days, you just had people who just wasn't doing shit. Put their head down and they wasn't bothering nobody. And after a while, teachers say, shit, let them sleep, whatever. As long as they ain't disrupting my class. But no, these kids
Yeah,
ain't doing
you
shit.
see that? Yep.
And they got to disrupt the class. So that's just one of the things compared to the Gen Xers who more of a nurturer. They want to hear what their kids say. They want to support them uh, because of the mental health. They want to show that they always there. My kid could text me or call me anytime. They're going to take this phone call if I call them, and the kids say, "Well, this is my mom." Okay, you're in class. Uh, so those are the type of connections that they try to have, but doesn't make it right because that they're in a class, but you still do it because every little issue that they come up with, uh, they're ready to jump on the teacher or email them or something because the teacher might have said no, they can't go to the bathroom right now. I want to get the class situated. Plus, they came late. They could have went to the bathroom while they were out there playing around. Uh, but then you have some parents who still want to be all over that. So because they want to show full support and nurturing. But the only thing about that is young fools become old fools. So if you raise them to be fools, sooner or later, that's what they're going to be as they get further along. And the thing is, when they hit high school, you ain't got to. They got other places for your ass. You ain't got to be in that school. They got other options for you. So uh, you have to think about that. And if you're an athlete and you play sports, well, you're not playing if you go to alternative ed and things of that nature. So you have a little more leverage. And plus, I always tell my middle schoolers, well, you can attend school up until you're long as if you turn 21 during the year, you can finish out school. I said, but after that, and they were like 21. Why the hell is somebody 21 being still be in school? Because they didn't do what they needed to do, and they was on that extended plan. And that's the way it is. And they're like, wow. I said, so could you imagine a 21-year-old in there? You might have a 20-year-old full beard and all that stuff. Drive the car, got baby seats in their car, and and you're 14, and they're in the class. It's just real. It's just real.
And people, granted, we're laughing, but when I graduated high school, I was one of those 20-year-olds. Now, granted, I was not full beard. I wasn't any bigger than the average student. However, it happens. And the more, we start to take a real sentient look at these kinds of things, we start to ask how often and why. Now, the why could be a number of reasons. I was a high school dropout and I failed seventh grade, so it put me 2 years behind. So I ended up having to double up in English. I remember specifically having to double up in English my senior year, but I wasn't necessarily a behavioral problem. What we have nowadays is a lot of kids who are behavioral problems, and some of that stems from their home environment. Now, that's not to say that they have bad parents, but the home environment is a microcosm of the community. The parent or the parents And what I mean by that is this: I know single mothers get a bad rap when it comes to parenting, understandably so. They have the reins of the children in their hands, so they're going to catch that. Now, with that being said, this is where people have to be willing to say, hey, look, you need help. Now, I don't know if this young boy, this young girl, these young children you have any relatives, but you need somebody to come in here and sit with these kids and give them the brass tacks about how this is, why it's important, and how it needs to go. See, and I got an article from a conscious rethink, and it lists 12 things. And one of the first things it lists is respect them as autonomous human beings. That's fine. I don't think David, me, or any other adult is going to say that you should respect kids as autonomous human beings. But, and I stress but, autonomy comes with having earned it. If you got a 10-year-old that wants to stay up and play, uh, what's what's one of the famous games they have on the PlayStation 4 or 5, Fortnite, but that child can never get up in the morning, that's not autonomy that's earned. That's autonomy that's being abused. Because no matter what our grades were, we had a set bedtime. So even if you were the senior on the high school basketball team or the football team, and you were getting good grades, hey, it's 9 o'clock behind in the bed. See, a lot of the parameters that we came up with as Gen X children are no longer being enforced, and sometimes that's because the parent just wants to take the easy way out. The parent don't want to hear them scream, don't want to hear 'em argue, don't want to fuss with them, don't want to lay down the law. I've seen it. I've seen it firsthand when I was doing a mentoring program that I established, where I had to go to a child's house and do bed checks. And I'm serious. When I say do bed checks, I mean, or call 8:30. Where's such and such at? Oh, he's in the bed. What'd you say? We told him what it was going to be. And no uncertain circumstances, you need to be in bed, because if you want to do this with us, if you want to go places with us, these are the standards that you have to maintain. Now, the other problem and the other side of the coin of that is the parents also have to be on board with what it is that is being taught in school. So even if it's being taught in school, it has to be reinforced at home. So if it's being taught in school and it's being reinforced at home, the only other outlet this child has is the community. So if the child gets out in the community and he's with some kids, or she's with some kids that aren't doing what they're doing at home, that kid is going to real quickly say, I want to do what they're doing, but I can't. So I have to make a decision. Do I want a home life that's, and trust me, kids figure this out very early in life. We don't give them credit. Trust me, they do. They're gonna ask, do I want to have the home life that I do? Do I want to be able to come home, not get yelled at, not be physically disciplined, not be not to face any of those things that those other kids do? And trust me, those kids say, you know what? I can't hang out with you anymore. They will tell you, the adult, but when they come home one day looking sad, and you ask, why aren't you playing with such and such, or why aren't you hanging out with such and such? They're gonna say, oh, we don't get along anymore. We're not friends. And you're gonna wonder as the adult, what happened? Why was that so abrupt? And I guarantee you, that's one of the underlying issues. Why?
Victor said, if the parents and teachers don't form a community, then the behavior of the children won't change. And that's something I always talk about. There's no need to go through all the stuff that we go through, the professional developments, the trainings, and all the stuff, if the parents are not included. It's almost at this point that you have to have them in the building for uh, professional developments and different things as well, and everybody work as a community. But you know what? People are not going to be willing to do that, because unless you're going to
Yeah,
pay them, or unless somebody's unless they're getting some out of it, unless they say, okay, I'll start this program, but I'm doing it because I need this to become an administrator. So this is a stretch project for me. So I want to try to, uh, implement this program at the school. But for the most part, shit, people be ready to hightail it out of there at dismissal time. So you have to have those opportunities. It can't just be for the honor roll society, honor roll awards, um, and things of that nature. Yeah, it's great for them to come in, but it also has to be like, okay, this is the issues we have at the school, and this is what's happening. Now, I don't want to say too much, and somebody, one of them, run across it like, yeah, we seen Mr. Glover on his podcast. He came up with some good ideas. I wonder why he never brought that up at work. Because I I'm giving some jewels for somebody younger to do it, but I ain't. But those are things that I see that probably you need to move forward with, because when you have some those other schools, the more high performing schools, they helicopter parents. They all over that shit. You tell them to be there, something going down, they are there. They gonna bring in food themselves, whatever. If it's an issue that's gonna impact um, their child's learning, but again, some of the lower performing schools, that's just not the priority. And also, a lot of times you have, which always was crazy to me. Like you have a lower performing in school, but then you bring in rookie teachers who have no classroom management behavior to deal with all these behaviors. And the top teachers, the gurus of the profession, they at the sweet schools, whatever, where they only have to deal with one or two behaviors here and there, because I guess they graduated, so they don't have to deal with all that. So when they go to work, shit, it's sweet to them. Like, man, I ain't got to worry about nothing. Everything runs itself. They have a system, and it just run. And and as a teacher, I guess that's the thing. You have to get a system, just like
Yeah.
sports teams. You have to have a system, and usually the system works well. Except if you're watching that Miami Heat and Cleveland game tonight, you don't know what the hell happened to Spo's system with that, because their ass getting beat by what, about 40, 47, 47, and it's in the third
Oh,
period. So, but
wow.
again, and I think systems is important. So you have to try to have a system, but in this chaotic environment, it's kind of hard for a new teacher to even try to establish a system because shit, they just trying to survive. They're in survival mode every day.
Yep. And point number two, and I'm going to follow what David was said. Point number two that this conscious reading says is helping them navigate difficulties when and if they arise. They face far and away more difficulty than we did. Now, the difficulties that we faced were more so age appropriate. What these kids are facing almost accelerates. David says this all the time. It almost accelerates them to 2 or 3 years beyond what their biological age suggests. So you got sixth graders dealing with ninth grade issues, ninth graders dealing with senior issues, 11th and 12th graders dealing with young adult issues, things that they are not ready for, and things that they can't be ready for just for the simple fact that they have never been exposed to them at the right time. We talked about this about maybe about a month or so ago when we talked about cell phone use and getting inappropriate pictures sent to you. We never had to deal with that as 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th graders. Hell, we didn't deal with that at all. So now you have these kids who are potentially being exposed to criminal things and they have no idea. So how do you navigate puberty? in your 4 years of high school and avoid the landmines that are out there when you don't know what they look like. So it becomes really, really difficult for them to navigate puberty, to be able to want to talk to a female, to be able to want to go out with a female, but not having the resources or the ability. Victor talks about this sexual discipline. These kids know nothing about that. They know nothing about why people engage in sex. You got some of them out here doing it unprotected. Then, even though the teenage pregnancy rate from when we were their age is down, it's still occurring. But the other thing that brings in is STIs and STDs. You got these kids running around and doing this stuff, and some of them walking around positive with something, and they have no idea. Then all of a sudden, you get a cluster of an outbreak, and the Board of Education gets wind, and they say, "Well, how the hell was this happening?" Well, duh. How do you think it's happening? These kids are getting together, and I know there was one movie one time about a pregnancy pact, and I can't remember what movie it was, and it was in a small town, Caucasian, predominantly well-to-do school. This type of stuff happens. So as parents, you have to be proactive in certain aspects of your child's life. Not nosy, but you certainly need to know what they're doing. And we talked about this before. You know, your kids are gonna lie to you, not because they don't want to tell you the truth. It's because they don't want to be left out. So they know if they got parents that's always gonna tell them, no, you can't go to certain places because you as a parent already know what's going on. They're not gonna tell you. They're gonna tell you they're doing something else. Or you got the young girl that wants to fit in with the rest of her classmates. She'll wear one thing, put something else in the backpack. Go to the bathroom first period. She changed clothes before she comes home. She changes back into the clothes. How do you, as a parent, combat that? How do you, as a parent, give your daughter, who's turned into a young woman, the freedom to express herself, but also teach her about dignity? Because her friends around are not being dignified; they're being anything but. So it is a very treacherous time in their lives, in the formation of their morals, in the direction that the morals are going to take them. And the best that you can hope for is give them all the tools that you have, everything that you learn, and tell them, hey, I may not have every answer. You got to be honest with the kids and say, hey, but if you have a question, come to me and we'll figure it out. You don't want to alienate them because that's what they're going to think. They're going to think, well, if I tell my mom, I didn't know how she's going to act. And if I tell my pops, find out, he really going to go ballistic. So they talking to other friends. They're talking to other friends' mothers who may not have the wherewithal that you have to sit down and talk with it and say, hey, it's okay. I did it when I was your age. Is that what you want somebody to tell your daughter? Is that what you want somebody to tell your son? They start drinking, they might start smoking weed because now we look through the country now, comparatively speaking, more states are starting to legalize marijuana. So guess what that means? It's for them, it's going to be as easy as smoking cigarettes. And you do not want your child to fall into that trap. So have open dialogue with them, have open conversation with them, and don't condemn their decisions as if they should know better. Because once you've actually sat down and had the conversation with them and established the guidelines and made the rules and set the foundation for an expected behavior, you shouldn't expect it.
Well, that's one of the things that with the baby boomers and all that. That's why sometimes it has to be a balance. And it's almost like some Gen Xers kind of like want to buck the system instead of saying, "Hey, I didn't turn out half bad." So I know some of the things that my mother, my grandmother, my aunts, my uncles implemented had worked. But I had the opportunity. last Wednesday to go to see some of my seventh graders that play rec ball. So they have been asking me, "Oh, you need to come to our game. You need to come to our game." So I said, "All right, I'm gonna pull up on y'all one day." And I pulled up on them because they didn't think I was gonna come. And one of the boys, first one I seen, he was on the bench, and then he spotted me in the doorway. So he comes running over to me, and I'm like, "Dude, where's your jersey? Where's your jersey at?" And he like, "Oh no, I was rushing out the house, Mr. Glover." Um, well, he might call me Glover man, Mr. Glover man. I was rushing out. I said, "So you're going to your game and you rush out and you leave one of the important items. It doesn't make sense." And then I said, "So they don't have no extra jersey or anything for you?" He's like, "Nah, but I'm waiting for my brother to bring it." I'm like, "Okay." So I go sit down, watch them play, and then they was going back and forth. Then it came to halftime, and one of the boys came over. "What's up, Mr. Glover?" That's the kid heard I mentioned that he found on the
Oh,
YouTube thing, and he was like,
yeah.
"Mr. Glover, I seen you screaming with the big bad wolf last night." So so he came over, and I mean, I talk a lot of crap to them at school because I let them know that people can give it back. I'm one of the ones that can give it back. Y'all can say some things to a lot of teachers and all that. They don't know how to come back. But in our
Hmm.
era, we learn how to crack jokes and come back and be real witty. So, but I just came to chill. Actually, I came to support them, man. Give them an honest assessment. So he came over to me and he was like, "Don't even say nothing. Don't even say nothing. I already got 7 points." I'm like, "Hold up, hold up, man. I ain't even about to say nothing. Only thing I was gonna say to you, take your time on the layups. That's all I was gonna say. I was just about to say." Then I said, "Okay, I know where that came from." Yeah, I talked junk to him because they talked junk to me, and I give it back to him in good context. So that was fine. Then one of my guys, he got put in the game and got taken out early. He was only in there for a short amount of time. He really didn't do. I don't see why he was taken out. Oh, he lost it. He lost it. So he ends up storming out the gym, threw his jersey down, and and walked away. I started to go after, like, "Yo, dude, if you don't get to put that jersey on, get your tail back in there." But I said, "This ain't even my time. I'm just here as a spectator." His parent or his grandmother's with him. That's for her to do. So I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm just minding my business. Then as the
It's
game
hard.
Yeah. As the game go on, one of the other guys, the one who didn't have his jersey, he gets upset because the game they was only losing by like one, then they was up, but it was getting like under a minute left, and the other team had the ball, and they might have had like a 2, 3 point lead, and then it got to the point that the game was they probably weren't gonna win. He gets mad. It takes off his jersey and he walks out. And I'm like, these dudes really don't have no self regulation. So I was
Yeah.
meaning to bring that up in our. We have a safety meeting every morning. We talk about certain issues, and I wanted to tie that in, but I was tied up with another situation, so I never had a chance to say it. But I wanted to say to them, they are who they are at school. They're it's just not no behavior at school. They are who they are. So the same way they act up in the classroom, this is how they act up in sports and all of that. So then it was one of the kids. He was actually probably had one of their better players. Well, he got caught up in with a heckling fan, another parent from the other team. So he going back and forth. Oh, he on the bench at this time. "Oh, you're a grown woman. You're a grown woman arguing with a kid, arguing with a kid." Granted, in youth sports, they'll always say, "Well, that, parents shouldn't say anything." But if you ever get to the next level, that's what fans do. That's what fans do. and you know you have some players that fall into that. Hey, didn't um the other week Luca just did he
Yeah.
get a technical or something because he was going back and forth, but the ref thought he was talking to him, but he was really going back and forth. Well, so sometimes you got to be able to channel your emotions, and I realized like, yo, these kids don't have no self regulation because not only did the guy he kept it going, the one boy with the parent. So after the game, it lingered on. He like cussing and carrying on, and then there was some guy that like snatched him up, and I didn't know who it was, but he snatched him up, and it was his grandfather, and he was like, "Yo, I don't know what you got going on. You out here to play basketball. You ain't worried about what nobody say in the stands, whatever." And he's like, "And I'm not your damn bro," because he's like, "Yo, bro, she a grown woman, whatever." And he was like, "And all y'all kids cussing, y'all like 12 years old, whatever." And then I guess he told his the boy's mother came up. He's like, "Get your damn son, get your damn son." And I'm like, "Whoa, I even had granddad snatch you up." And I just was like, maybe I shouldn't have came to this. Like, it was just too much stem line. I just wanted to come and support y'all, and so they could say, "Oh, he did what he said he was gonna do." But then it reminded me, like, yo, we got issues on our hands with these. They can't get through a damn basketball game with all these different episodes. But then again, the coach ain't making no better because at one point he had words for the referee like, "I'm gonna see you after this," and the referee was like, "Oh, you're not gonna see nobody." Like, dude, you can't do that in front of me. You got to be the calm one, whatever. So I like, yo, this stuff is wild. Buckle up, people.
And that is not an isolated event or story. When I was doing AAU, we had our 12-year-olds get embroiled in the same type of situation with some adult and coaches from another team. And I'm standing within earshot, and I turn around and I look, I'm like, yo, what is wrong with y'all? I said, y'all can't be speaking to them like that. They're adults. He said, well, they should be speaking to us like that. I said, when that happens, you don't respond to them. You come get us. We're adults. We'll talk to them. And we said, yo, we understand that they're kids. We said, but you guys also have to understand that they're kids and they're going to react like that. We expect better from them. We know them, but we expect better from y'all. We got them out and said, yo, for the rest of this tournament, y'all don't speak to anybody but us. No players from opposing teams, no adults from other teams. You guys just speak to us. And sometimes, in order to protect them, because as we said earlier, some of these kids they don't understand the culture of how to respect somebody without being disrespectful because they're used to speaking a certain way. So if they're used to speaking a certain way and they haven't talked and they haven't been taught, some people call it code switching, and they haven't been taught, then they're always going to behave like that. And the problem that presents is this: when some of them run into a situation where they don't have the authority, i.e., law enforcement, that's when the brutality occurs. That's when the unnecessary scuffles come out. And heaven forbid they run into another kid that's like them, you got fights. Heaven forbid that one of those kids is dying, you got a homicide. And it escalates just that quick as we've seen over the last couple of weeks with that whole situation that happened in Texas. People, it's real out here for these kids. We talk about autonomy. We talk about respecting their privacy. Sometimes you got to butt in. Sometimes you got to be nosy. Sometimes you got to tell them, hey, look, I was peeking at what you was doing. I can't condone that. I don't approve of that. Now, they might get mad. Matter of fact, I'm going to go out on a limb. They going to get hella mad. But you know what? As my mother used to tell me, glad there's just certain things that I'm not going to condone under this roof. I don't care who you think you are, what you think you are. You're still a child. And as long as you are my child under this roof, there are going to be certain things that I'm not going to permit. And your behavior is one of them. And people think
that you can't regulate these kids' behaviors because, as Mobb Deep singing one of the raps, now we all grown and old and be on the cops control. You got to put your foot down. And I caught a lot of flack for saying this, and I'm gonna say it here, ladies. If your son gets to be 7 or 8, 9 or 10, and you think you can't handle him, send his ass to his dad. Period. There's no discussion because if you don't, in 10 years, he's gonna have an inmate number. Now, if you don't mind that, you don't mind making trips upstate, put money on his books, hey, do you. But there are certain
Man,
universal truths.
they like, I ain't giving up that 500, 600, $700 a month child support. You done lost your mind. He'll be all right. He'll
There's
outgrow
universal
it.
truths.
He'll outgrow it.
There's universal truths. Well, I'm here to tell you, there's universal truths when it comes to dealing with young males, especially black males. Because that boy get to the point where he 5'6", looking you in the eyes at 150 pounds. What you gonna do? Fight him? You gonna fight him every time he does something you don't like, which is gonna be more often than not. And then he's gonna go to school with a welt. Teacher's gonna ask, how that happened? Oh, I got into a fight with my mom. So you did what? Now you got to deal with CPS. Now you got a whole different ballgame because you didn't understand that early in his development, you were supposed to lay down some rules, some foundations, some groundwork to say, hey, look, I didn't do this at your age. I'm not going to tolerate you doing it at your age. So, yeah, you can respect the privacy. You can give them autonomy. But you got to keep in mind that at a certain point in time, they can get up to the point where they make their own mind and engage in their own decision making for whatever reason. You got to set the parameters for the expectation of their behavior. And if you don't, they will.
And one of the things it says that as far as the baby boomers, they were less involved with the kids that their children daily lives with a greater emphasis on independence. And some of that holds true because I could say for myself that my mother, she was involved with a lot, but because I did what I had to do in school, and I never was a major problem that I you kind of earn your curfew or whatever the
Mm-hmm.
case is because I would get my homework done right after school. That was my routine. Like whereas other kids, they we could be in a goddamn good ass football game in the alley and it's 49-49 and we going at it. And then somebody mother is at the top of the alley calling them to come in because they need to, finish their homework or work on a project that's turned in. And we're like, yo, what are you doing? Like, man, why didn't you do that after school? So that became that became my routine to do stuff right after. And I don't care who was knocking at the door or where they was going. Okay, y'all go there, then come back later because I'm about to do my work. I'm about to get this done. I might eat a snack or something, but then I'm going in the lab doing my work. And before football practice, basketball practice, and all that stuff. So that was something that I always did. So sometimes you earn independence because you know your personnel, you know who you're
Mm-hmm.
dealing with. And one of the examples was that is I had for, and I was going to try to carry the streak out for from fifth grade to 10th grade. I had perfect attendance 5 straight years and without missing a day. I was like Mikael Bridges or freaking what's his name, the Iron Man in baseball, Cal Ripken
Cal Ripken.
Jr. and or Cal Ripken. But then one day uh, in 11th grade, our bus didn't come, and we decided like, man, it's cold out here, and I ended up going to my homeboy's house. I never even. It was bothering me inside too. They was like, "Yo, you coming?" And I was like, and we ain't really do nothing. We was just, everybody else was in school. We was just now. Don't get me wrong. They had planned days that they didn't go to school, and I'm gonna say it now. It's no disrespect to some of the women, but they had some ducks coming through. They had some ducks lined up coming through, and they would miss school, and they would ask me, "Oh, you gonna skip your? Who coming over? Hell no! I'm not messing up my streak of perfect attendance behind that." But we ain't really had nothing going on. We was just like hanging out, watching TV, probably watching videos or whatever. And the school called my mother because there's like, uh, shit, kind of like everything okay now. In this day and age, they have the robocalls that you automatically get a call if your kid is absent. But these was like personal calls. Like we notice he's not
Yeah.
here, and he never misses school. So later on in the day, my mother was like, "You ain't go to school?" And I was like, "Nah." And she was like, "Why not?" And I told her what happened. And then she's like, "So you ain't call and ask, your grandfather, your aunt, or anybody for a ride?" And I was like, "Nah, I ain't want to bother him." And she's like, "Oh, okay." Because I earned that. I earned that. So it wasn't a big hassle because she knew how I am. I didn't like to miss like if and it really wasn't her responsibility as I got older. But if she somewhat overslept, whatever, and she like, okay, you got to hurry up, whatever, I would be in like a full panic, anxiety mode. Like, oh my god, I'm about to miss the bus, or I'm about to be late, or tripping out. But as y'all say, I'm crashing out. But I kind of you earn you earn that privilege to do things, and I always tell kids now the greatest equalizer is get good grades. Then
Yeah.
what do they have to say? If you do your chores at home and you got good grades, what the hell really a parent can really say to you? If you're doing everything, the main things that you're supposed to do, and you get it done, what could they really say to you? Even the most stricter parents would probably cut you some slack, whatever. Y'all don't do that. Y'all don't understand the game. Y'all don't know how to play it, and that's the thing.
Yeah, I think there's a whole lot more truth to that than a lot of people realize. Especially when it gets to having and maintaining good grades. Because I remember, and this is weird how this worked for me. I did better academically when I was involved in sports. So my junior and senior, actually my junior year, because that was the year I played at Lace Up. My GPA was better than it was when I did play sports. I don't know if the motivation was, hey, look, I need to keep my
Sports.
grades up so I can play.
Yeah.
It, yeah, it was-
I can't hear you, so I don't know if that's my thing.
no, I can hear you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, my junior year, I was in the books like I was trying to be buried in snow, and I'm not even sure why. And at that particular time, I was actually living on my own, if you will. I was staying with my older brother because my mother had put me out. So I was the driving force. I was the only force in terms of making sure that I got up in the morning, my laundry was done, school work was done, and I was also working a job at the time too. So my proverbial plate when I was a junior, it was full. So I didn't have the time, to bullshit like some of the other students. If if my work didn't get done, there was nobody on my shoulder making sure it got done. Now, granted, at the time I was 19. I was fortunate enough that I had the mindset to do that. But a lot of these kids nowadays, if you put them in that situation, they are not going to make it. So that's definitely, how I developed it, at least a parenting style that I would have had, because I've always had the theory. I would never be mad at a child of mine for doing something I did at their age. And I think a lot of parents, they don't monitor certain things that their kids do. So if you got school and the parent didn't skip school, the parent may not even, okay, they're doing okay. Their grades aren't where they should be, but they're not terrible. The parent won't address it because the parent may have two other kids, and those kids are a bigger headache than the one who's skipped a couple classes. So they're dealing with the ones who are the bigger headaches, and it's just like they become overwhelmed because our parents really didn't have that. There was always somebody. The village where we came up was more together than it is now. Now you have three or four adults in a quarter mile area that actually care.
Yeah,
They will go to PTA meetings,
there's
go
no
to
village
sporting
now.
events. Yeah,
It's
bake
just that.
sales. I mean, it doesn't exist now, so it's difficult for us to expect these kids to be all that they can be, if I can borrow the phrase, when they're not getting half the support that they need. And that support comes directly from the community, their families, and other people's families. Because I know, and I'll use back support all the way around. Matter of fact, sports, booster clubs. I mean, we had the support. We had the support of the community. So even if you weren't doing well, somebody would pull your coat on. Hey, look, you're not gonna be in high school forever. You gotta get your shit together because ain't nothing out on these streets for you. I don't know if these kids are being told that. I really don't, and that's a scary prospect.
I think, and that's one of the things that I could say, like growing up with the baby boomers that, as Herb alluded to, that we had many eyes on us, many eyes. We had other mothers that were mothers, and we became their children as well. So they wasn't gonna treat us no different than their uh, children. Shout out to Sister Hill uh, and her kids, Sabrina, David, Mr. Clean, Anthony. That boy, she didn't play. She didn't play. So if her kids got a ass whooping and we were doing something with them, I never got one of her whoopings, but she would give it out. She would dish it out. And if she was riding in the car and we were somewhere 4 or 5 blocks away and she spotted us, I would get your asses on back over there. And we never disrespected her. We never said, you ain't our mom, such and such. We took our asses back over there because we knew. Because we was a family. We all was a family. We was connected. And just don't have that because nowadays people are afraid to say something to somebody else's child because of the repercussions, or I say lack of emotional intelligence, that somebody's trying to tell you something for the good of you, and you want to go off and like mind your business. That's mine. That's mine right there. Eh, eh, people say, well, you know what? Okay, if their ass is getting beat down by somebody, it ain't mine. I'm just gonna watch it happen, and that's the truth of the issue of what's going on now. Even and it came around before that when you say no snitching, it wouldn't be that type of rule growing up on North Avenue. We see somebody was gonna see it, they was gonna freaking tell it, or it'll be multiple people jumping on somebody's ass. But nowadays it's like, yo, that ain't that ain't my concern to fight. So and don't get me wrong, I'm not. I don't run for wouldn't run for president of my block club on my street because I'm in the trenches all day long. I'm in the trenches all day long, and I think some kids could they could kind of they can kind of feel your aura because they're very perceptive, and they may know like, not to get smart with him. There's a couple times I might have to say something to kids, and they be like, and it looked like somebody want to get smart. Then one of the other kids were like, "Yo, chill. That's an OG. That's an OG. Like,
Yeah.
yo, chill." And then you know that they were taught differently. Like, yo, he ain't saying no like, yo, chill. Like, and some kids are able to step up to that plate. But then you have some you just know like it's a product of their environment. Then if you see their parents, you like, and then you wonder why it's the way it is. So all of this stuff is connected. And again, we're not I'm not saying that there's any difference, anything better, because a lot of times you have to steal from the generation from before. Uh,
Yeah.
and I often crack up in sports when people like, oh, the players in this era, the ones now is much better. They wouldn't be who they was unless it was Kobe wouldn't be Kobe unless it was Mike. And
Yeah.
Mike wouldn't be because they stole from these guys some of their moves, whatever. They just technology and they just probably more athletically gifted, but oh, if you had a if you had a way to play the game and they played, shit, I'm still might pick the old school dudes because I think they freaking picked them apart, whatever. Even though the younger ones might be more athletic, but I think the old school dudes might the brain, whatever they would they would just backdoor them and do some stuff. They'd be like, damn, I didn't see that coming. So I'm not one to. You can be athletic and all that stuff, but sometimes brains and all that stuff, the IQ kicks in, and I think
Number 12 on this list, and they have it, and it's funny you gave that analogy. Number 12 on the list from A Conscious Rethink says, admit when you're wrong and take actions to make amends. And it goes on to say, we all screw up at times, especially when we're feeling overwhelmed. And I mentioned that earlier. Go ahead, do this, and they get in trouble, or well, I didn't know. How did you know you didn't know? As such, if you're if you're unfair towards your children, own up to that. Explain to them why you behaved the way you did and why it wasn't okay. Even more important, to take action to make amends for what happened. You're showing them that parents too. The parents are people too. I'm sorry, and why it's important to make sure that the actions match your words. They're likely to respect that and mirror your actions in return. And simply put, that means this: what David is talking about when the young boy said, yo, that's an OG, don't do that. That's because David has already set the template of what's expected from that young man. And that young man said, you know what? I can abide by that. You've always been a straight shooter with me. You've always kept it at a level. You've never called me out. And if you said something that was wrong, or you just did something that was wrong, you said, you know what? Little man, let me holler at you. You know what I told you earlier about what we spoke about? Man, I found out that wasn't correct. And a student is going to look at you kind of perplexed and think, why would you tell me you were wrong? You're never supposed to be wrong. And I say, hey, look, I get things wrong. I don't know everything. But you know what? I'm willing to learn. And if I can own up to when I'm wrong, guess what that means you should do? And begrudgingly, they will say, okay, man, no, I got it. You're going to say, I want to hear you say it. Come on, man. No. If I said it, you can say it. All right, man. Next time I'm wrong, I'm going to tell you I'm going to admit it. And I'm going to say I'm sorry. And that's called growth. Some of us adults, we don't want to do that. We have to be right at any cost. But sometimes that cost is a friendship. Sometimes that being right is the respect you got from your coworker, your manager, somebody you may not know. You might come across somebody that may have said something, and you know what? They were right and you were wrong, not because you were wrong per se, but you were wrong in the way that you acted. And the problem with that is people are doing this in front of their kids. So guess what the kids see? Oh well, my mom did that. She cussed them out. The next time I see somebody, guess what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna cuss them out. And then we wonder why the behavior from generation to generation doesn't change. And then they wonder why when they get in school and they see a familiar last name and they ask, was your parent so and so? Yeah, that's my mom. Boom. You're already labeled. And you don't even know why. So they treat you how they treated your parent. Why? Because your parent was a fuck up. Your parent never apologized for anything. And your parent was always one in class heckling people, keeping up disruptions, stopping the teacher from teaching, giving the teacher a hard time, being a pain in the ass, getting sent down to the principal office multiple times. That's how this stuff works. And if you don't think so, ask around.
And one of the things too, when you grew up in the baby boomer era and all this stuff, is sometimes you have to do your homework too when you older, and get in their world, and you have to understand their lingo, things that they're talking about. And I remember this from years and years ago when I went to, and I probably mentioned this before. I went to a training, and it was in New Orleans, and one of the guys that was speaking, and again, like I said, this was like had to be like 2004, and he was like, if you're working with in education and you don't understand hip hop, you shouldn't work with kids. And I was like, damn, thought about it, and I was like, wow. And the statement is so powerful because now, as I get, and at that time I was in my 30s, so now in my 50s, whatever, you still have to stay relevant, and you still have to understand and be able to speak their language. And when they understand, they know when you're genuine or not, and when you uh, can speak it and act it, uh, respect is formed in those regards. So one of the examples of that, like I said, I like to talk crap to my students. So I think it was last week. The weather started getting nice. Had to go outside on the basketball court, and one of the boys that play on the rec ball team, me and him always go back and forth because he's a Ravens fan and I'm a Steelers fan. So he's like, yeah, yeah, Mr. Glover, play me one on one. Like, nah, go ahead, man, go ahead. So I played. I really wasn't playing, whatever, but we went up to five, and he messed around and let me hit a couple shots in a row. And so, of course, I end up, you know, I'm not one of the ones, oh, everybody get a trophy. I could have said, okay, I'm gonna let him win. Nah, nah. So I had to give him that L, and it humbled him since then. He actually been real quiet. He was like, man, I didn't realize you was that nice. Dude, I was nice as hell. I was horrible. But I just hit a couple shots in a row that kind of sealed the deal. I was horrible. Like, oh my God, I'm glad I retired from this. But I was, trying to tell him, like, yeah, some things you may not lose, whatever, if you was a shooter or whatever. I said, once you let my feet get set, that was it. That was it. So, but I humbled him a little bit as far as that, and he's like, "Oh, well, I got to get my revenge. You might get it." I said, "That determines if I want to give it back. I can say, no, it ain't no rematch. It ain't no rematch. And I just walk away. And then eventually, you want to play me next year when you're in 8th grade? And I said, no, no. But it's all in fun. But sometimes you have to find ways to connect with kids. And I think that's one of the things that the Gen Xers try to do: collaborate and build,
Yeah.
give kids autonomy and stuff like that. Uh, but at certain times, again, we grew up in the. Sometimes these kids know too much, and we were told you can't when adults are talking, unless you're already in there, and most of the time you're not, leave a room. You can't come and sip water in the kitchen and be standing in there. It's 2 or 3 adults in the kitchen and your ass sipping, but you're taking forever because you're trying to absorb and get information. You might get cussed out. Get your ass outside, or you gonna stay in. Uh, and these kids, they know way too much information, way too much. And one of the perfect examples, uh, and this was years ago when I first started working at the middle school level. It was some young girl. It was around January, February, and she like, Mr. Glover, did you do your taxes yet? Huh? Like, huh? And I'm like, what the hell you know about taxes? Because my mother did her taxes last night, and oh, I'm about to come to school fresh. She got this money back, and to the point, this girl said, "Because you probably ain't getting no earned income credit and all of this stuff." And I'm like, why does she even know this information? Why does she even know this information? It's some information you may think is good, but it's probably before they. Now, granted, shit, I haven't heard from her. Her ass might do taxes now, but that was just like, oh, yo, you know too much. I don't. Growing up, I was outside playing. I ain't know my mother and them got taxes back or anything. Maybe maybe she got some back, and maybe those was the times like, okay, y'all getting some new sneakers or some new clothes, but we didn't know where it was from. These kids know all that shit. Child support, this and that. Well, the reason why this happened because my dad ain't sitting no child support and all that. Because some of y'all people y'all talk too damn much around kids.
Yeah.
You tell them too much. They not your friends. They not your buddies. If you feel as a parent that you got to be their best friend to gain respect, you know what? It won't work, and they'll end up. A lot of times they end up turning on you for the parent who was it, who gave them resistance, because they want their attention so much and so bad that although you were trying to do the right thing, you did too much. Uh, because everybody like a challenge, believe it or not. And sometimes kids like, oh, I gotta look good in this parents. I'll do anything to be able to pull this off or to do that because I get my mom's attention or I get my dad's attention, but I want their attention. So I'm willing to do whatever it takes. So don't think being a buddy is always the best solution because sometimes when they talking to that other parent, they telling that other parent, they're so annoying, they're so aggravating, or whatever the case is. So there's no cookie cutter approach. There's no handbook on it. The one thing you can be is just be yourself and be who you are. And people say, well,
Yeah.
when you have kids, you should change, you should do this and that. But the core issue of it all, you're still going to be who you are at the end of the day. And that's what you got to go on.
That's good. Oh, no, and I agree. A lot of people they have that problem when they get in a relationship with another adult. they want to change. And that's probably the worst thing you can do because once you start doing that, you become inconsistent. And the last thing that a child needs is an inconsistent parental figure, especially if you've got an abuse problem, whether it's drugs or alcohol, or you're just an unstable person. You're moody, you're emotional. It makes it hard for them to get to know you. I know that sounds counterproductive. Well, I haven't changed. I'm still the same person. Not if you're drinking. Not if you're stressed out. Not if one day you're working here, next time you ain't got no job, the next time you're working here, you may not have steady income. You're bringing odd people in and out of the house. Somebody stops by and say, "Have you ate?" Nah, she ain't cooked nothing, or he ain't brought nothing by, or no, I'm hungry. And then some of these kids go to school and they starving, they cutting up, not because they bad students, they get nothing to eat. And they're not getting nothing to eat because the parent is out doing everything except what they need to do to be a parent. Now, I'm not saying this is widespread, but I'm saying it's a big enough problem to where it needs to be discussed. So if you know a child that's out here struggling academically, and it might be one of your daughters or son's friends, ask a question. Ask your son to ask him, "Yo, can my pops, can my mother do anything to help you out?" They're more likely to open up to your son or your daughter than maybe to another adult because hey, they don't know you that well. They don't know if they can trust you because nobody's really trying to shame their parent. Nobody's trying to say that their parents are inadequate. They don't want to do that. Why? This is the mother. It's the father. You don't want anybody to know that you're not eating well, you're not getting clothes you want, or clothes you need, or you hear your mother in there playing records all night long. Nobody knows that. And I hope you understand what I mean by records. Don't know, especially high school.
Must be
I
moving
hope you know high
furniture or
school.
something.
Yes,
Talking about
sir.
moving
Acme,
furniture,
Acme.
getting plowed down.
Don't
Uh,
know. Don't no child really want to have to speak about that kind of stuff because it's quasi embarrassing. You know what I'm saying, but who do I turn to? Who do I say something to? Because she's gonna deny it or he's gonna deny it, and they're gonna say, you know what goes on in this house stays in this house. But that kid's being negatively impacted. So how do we expect this kid to function when we're not creating an environment for this child to function properly? Damned if you do, damned if you don't. So, don't put these kids in these type of situations. A lot of people criticize Dr. Umar for what he talks about with separating the genders in terms of education. The more I think about it, the more I agree. It allows these kids to be in their natural element. They don't have to worry about impressing a girl by having the latest fashion. They don't have to worry about impressing this boy with the latest hairdo, keeping their nails. They can come to school, be simple, get good grades. Hell, they're gonna have the rest of their life to think. They're gonna have the rest of their life to wear makeup. Uh, excuse me, impress people of the other gender. All at due time. But they have a short window to get their high school education because at 21, it is bye, bye, bye. And I ain't talking about in sync either. I'm saying bye, 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 as in you don't get nothing. And a lot of people say, oh, Well, they can just go get that GED. Newsflash: that GED with the newer requirements, it is hella hard to get. And I've seen the test numbers like this. You might as well go ahead and finish school because they're not playing with the new GED.
It's much harder. So it's not easy, especially if they ain't did shit all throughout. To think that they're gonna go and get the GED, it's not gonna work like that. And that shit is designed purposely that they won't. So hey, dropping out should never be an option at this point, unless you already know you got a gold mine somewhere. But even then, you still want to have that to fall back on. So like it's so many avenues and all this stuff. And one of the things I also wanted to bring up, I always gotta throw something out at Niagara Falls, my hometown. Yo, I don't know who this dude is that kind of trying to scoop up these girls. That his image is going around. Uh, Whoever that guy is, I done seen this picture of this guy a couple times. This is why I tell y'all to keep y'all damn kids off of social media or whatever. Uh, yeah, I just don't understand. Like people are getting comfortable. They're getting comfortable, and now it's so easy to do it. It's so easy to do it because y'all put it right there for them. Y'all put it right there for them. If you feel you haven't done enough and you feel you need to be validated and again about your likes and your views and all that stuff, and you feel your kid has to be a part of that, shame on you. You need to do something else. Go back, do something, get a certificate, do something, but keep your damn kids off of that stuff. This is why these people are feeling comfortable. You don't think that they could quickly be on social media and and pick up on locations and all that. Well, again, we always talk about yeah, give information. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
some people try to be clever, try to white out or black out the name of the school and all that stuff. But once you put the sports thing on there, all they have to do is Google that. Oh, they go to that school, or oh, I'm gonna put up their dance stuff. Oh, so they go to this dance school, and all it takes is one time for you to be late or whatever the case is, or you not around and they there and they snatch them up. And why do you think that some of these kids end up missing often? It's not just by accident that they people just take a chance. Probably they just studied the surroundings and they watching things and they 'cause you got some sick ass men that get infatuated with little kids. Like
Yeah.
she's so cute, she's so
Mm-hmm.
pretty. Like oh, I love when she have her cheerleading outfit on or
Yep.
whatever the case is, and they be all over that shit, all over it. Listen, you want to validate yourself? Go out and do something great, do something different. Uh, Again, if your ass can't cook, go take some cooking classes and get a certificate and post that shit. Post that. Stop using your kids for that
Yeah.
purpose. Because, like I said, I keep seeing the same dude in Niagara Falls, and I'm like, what the hell is going on?
Yeah. Making your kids a target, man. It's not wise. Because I know the only people that knew we played sports were the parents of people that we played with and the coaches. Now, granted, we didn't have the internet, and our parents were never really about that kind of bragging, unless it was something, noteworthy about you got some invitation to a who's who, or you might have been on the honor society, or of course you got the spring routine, or you in a church play. Those are the type of things you may have got some pub for, but the rest of the stuff, mm-mm. Parents just wasn't playing that. I mean, we grew up in the age of stranger danger. Now, got people
Because
taking Ubers with strangers. It's crazy.
because one of the things is some people got in their head that the accolades that their kids get, it makes them feel that they're a better parent. And that has little to do with it because kids are resilient. They can have the worst of
Yeah,
parents. They can have two crackhead ass parents and they still go to school and achieve. And they, even at a young age, they say to myself, well, I'm not going to be like this. I'm going to be better than them.
yeah,
And I'm always going to try hard. So when I have a family, I don't have to put my kids through it. And that's their
yeah,
external motivation. But some of y'all think like, oh, that means I'm a great parent. Because when you do stuff like that, that means you feel like you haven't accomplished enough in your life and you want to be a super parent. And there's no there's no measurement of that because you got the greatest kid in high school, they go to college, end up getting hooked up on drugs or whatever the case is. So there's no measurement. You're a parent for life until you know until the passing of one another. So there's no true testament of to say that I'm a good parent or not. Uh, shit, you just got to take it day by day and see how it is. So even when you think about baby boomers, Gen Xers, whatever, there's comparisons, but I think both has its advantages and disadvantages. And one thing is you try to want to find a balance because certainly some of the things they did wasn't wrong. We damn sure know we need structure. Kids need structure. That's probably one of the most important things. Need routines, need to follow orders, uh, be disciplined about things. But at the same time, some kids got a lot to say, got a lot to offer, got a lot of feedback to give. And we know in this day and age, shit, some of us don't know anything about technology. And kids could tell you, you need to do this, Dad. You need to do this, Mom. If you go on here and do this, this will work. Oh, you need
yeah,
to do a PowerPoint? I can show you how to do a PowerPoint or whatever the case is. And I can tell you, when I remember I was in high school and I was taking a class, and I was like, man, I don't know about this stuff. And one of my higher level kids, like, what you need, Mr. Glover? Give me the information and sat there, put it together, did everything, turned it in. Shit, think I ain't get an A on it. And I probably bought her something for lunch, whatever, because they're resilient and they understand technology and different things. So they are. You have to listen to them, and they understand a
yeah,
lot of things because some things that we're concerned about and that never was an issue is in their generation, so they know about certain things. When it comes to phones and stuff like that, you're a parent. Your ass used to a freaking analog phone. Now all of a sudden you want to step it up, and they got to tell you how to work every day. So you,
and you know what? I'm gonna really make some of y'all laugh. It still works. There's a quarter slider. Yeah, I'm old school, so when he talks about it, you can see it. You can see the picture on there and everything. My boy that's sitting over here sleeping. I use it. I use it as a phone storage. You can see some contact names in there. Well, you can't see the names, but barely. But yeah, you got some of us adults who are stuck in our ways, and we will, sometimes we'll tell these kids, figure it out. I did. When you can't figure out how to use your cell phone, and they remind you, and this goes back to what I said earlier about being wrong. Oh, that was just this. Say, you know what? You're right. Let's see if we can sit down and figure this out together. Because that's all you trying. All you trying to. I'm gonna say this, and far be it for me to try and minimize or simplify something when I don't have to travel the path, or I'm never gonna travel the path. Being a parent should be simple. Understand what I mean when I say this. Don't complicate things. Your job as a parent is to offer information and experiences to your child and do so in a manner that the child understands that they may want to do something different. They may not want to have kids, but they may want to get married. They may not want to go to college. They may want to be a stay at home wife. You didn't go to college because you thought it was too hard, so you was just a truck driver? Cool. You got a son that may want to be a lawyer. Support them. Don't be like your parent was and turn your back. Oh, I joined the military. We got a robust history of the military in our family, and you want to do what? I gotta disown you. Don't do that to your child. That's the worst thing you can do is make your child feel guilty for something that you wanted to do and they didn't want to follow. And we see that often. You don't hear about it often, but we see it often. Why did your father come to the graduation college? Well, he was upset because I didn't go to the military, or I didn't become a truck driver, or a lot of things, especially for young men. Because as it stands now, the educational rate for men and with bachelors is dropping. And there's a very, very good reason why it's dropping. And we won't get into that here, but needless to say, that creates a shortage for women, especially for women who are looking for men who are equally as educated as they are. Now, that doesn't mean these men aren't good men. They're just not what the women want. So then you wonder why men at the top of the food chain have multiple women, and they're not committed, and they're having all the fun that their little husbands desire with the daughters of you people, because you ain't raised your sons enough to think highly of going to school. And don't get me wrong, some of these young boys have come into the light. They see what it is about hypergamy, and they're saying, you know what? I saw my father go through this. Matter of fact, there's a clip of Damon Wayans, and he talks about how brutal his mother was towards his father. And he said, I don't see how that man stayed. And it was eye-opening for me. Because we always hear about abuse when it's male to female, but we rarely hear about abuse when it's female to male. He said, I don't know how he stayed. He said, I don't know how he stayed. So there's a lot of stuff out here that isn't discussed in mainstream media. It's not talked about in mainstream media because they want to kind of keep a lid on that. But you got some parents out here that don't do well because they've never had the support. So when it comes to doing well by their children, it's hard. It's very hard. They really can't offer them any advice because they don't have any to give. You there, Dave, or did you look like you lost connection? So I'll keep going. Now, there's an old adage called, or stated roughly, once an adult, twice a child. For those of you who still have your health as an older adult, your children's coming up in their late 30s, early 40s, cherish them and treat them well. Because what happens if you fall ill? I remember my mother, before she transitioned, stayed with me 6 months when she was recovering from cancer. Now, guess what? If I thought she was a bad mother to me, I'd have told her kick rocks, go home, take care of yourself, feed yourself, clothe yourself. No, she couldn't do that. Not recovering from cancer surgery. But I did that, despite all the things that may have happened in her childhood, including her putting me out. I'll let that shit go. Bygones be bygones. You're my mother. I'm going to take care of you. And I know some ladies going to say, that's what you're supposed to do as a man. That's what you're supposed to do for your mother. Says who? Where's that written? Oh, the Bible. Honor thy mother and thy father, that their days may be long. I'll plan the planet that the Lord thy God giveth me. But I ain't a Christian. I don't abide by the Bible. So now what? And this is the thing we got to learn as potential parents. I said potential because it always exists, except for me. I ain't doing certain things. I'm not playing that kind of record anymore. But we have to understand that, what we put out as parents, it's going to come back. It's going to come back. And if your ass end up in a nursing home, don't ask why. You already got the answer.
Well, the one thing I will say is, shout out to Jedi. I don't know. I always get your name. He said, good to see that you guys are still going strong. Salute. Always. Consistency breaks down resistancy. So we always at it no matter what. You're not in it to have people have the big numbers and all of that stuff, whatever. You just keep plugging away,
Oh,
keep
yeah.
plugging away. And sooner or later, when you're consistent, so keep knocking at the door, somebody gonna answer. All it takes is the one person to answer the door, the right person. So that's kind of our motto. But to go back to the point where Herb said about the Christian and all that, I don't know. I don't know if people should be using that as their model to do all that because there's a lot going on with these leaders of these religions. And I know they say, well, you shouldn't follow no man and all of that stuff, but these are the people that go to hear speak on a regular basis. Something ain't right. Should people be folding? Talking about these masks be peeling off and shit. They be coming off eventually. And a lot of sick people in that shit. A lot of sick people. I'd rather be the counselor, the controversial counselor, the jerk, or whatever. You already know what you're getting with me. You already know what you're getting. I already put it out there. You already know what you're getting. And I ain't trying to fool nobody with it. Some fools in sheep's clothing. I've seen another prominent, and I'm just thinking about my hometown, and I know this is all over. Seen another prominent pastor that I was reading about, and I was like, nah. I ain't say nah because I don't, I just don't put all my eggs in a basket on anyone like that. But pe- people starting to come for people's throats, and they trying to expose people and trying to come out with some things. Yeah, and then you see the comments of people like, "Oh man, yeah, y'all need to stop. Y'all just sick. Y'all just evil. Just whatever." And now people got the platform because remember, this what y'all wanted. Y'all wanted to give people autonomy, whatever. So now people are speaking and they're coming out and they're challenging some of the things. So you can't have it both ways. Now you want to teach your children not to teach your children to always speak up and voice yourself. Now some of these kids are coming up and they said, "Pastor touched me somewhere," or I should make light of the situation, whatever, but it's happening. And now some of you are like, "Listen, don't say nothing." Now you want to go back to the baby boomer thing and all that stuff. You want to flip flop when it didn't work in your advantage. But now people are coming out and they talking. And I can tell you this because this commercials ran every day. I hear these commercials. I'm riding to work and they're like, "Have you ever been sexually assaulted by, uh, someone in a detention facility, a teacher, and all that?" Well, you know that you can get money and all that, no matter if they're still work there or they still living. They making commercials about this shit. Now, this is how crazy it is. So people like shit. I'm trying to hit the and as far as I know, like some of the people, and I don't know anybody who got hit, but they were saying like some people getting up to a couple 100,000. People trying to hit the lottery on this shit. They're trying to hit the lottery, and sometimes certain people, that's all they need. Couple 100,000, put a down payment on a house, do this and that, and they trying to set themselves free. So people are trying to expose folks,
Oh yeah,
and
oh yeah,
that's the culture that has been created along with technology and social media and all that. So you know the baby boomers and people said, "Don't air out your dirty laundry. Keep it quiet." But maybe that wasn't right too because you had a lot of incest and all of that stuff going on. So that wasn't right too because people was tainted and things was happening and nobody spoke on anything. And that shit hurt people who got violated inside their whole
yeah.
life. It ate them up. But now, so what are we getting? Fucking mass confusion between all these generations. Got technology, got all of this and that. Where's the stability? It ain't in the church. It ain't in the school. It ain't in the homes. It ain't in the community. So who gonna save y'all? Let y'all marinate on that.
Hmm.
Make sure I clip this point. Who gonna fucking save me?
That is all I have, other than be supportive of what they do. Um, for me, that's simple and straightforward. Just David mentioned this earlier. Going to see the seventh grade games. A lot of these kids, they don't get the support that they crave, and they just want somebody there just to see them. Even if they don't play that well, excuse me, they don't play that long. They just want somebody to say, "You know what? I'm proud of you." you accomplish something. You put your mind to it, some effort, and you hear. People, so I think sometimes people don't understand how long or how effective or even the kind of drive that ignites in a person. There are people just off a few words of encouragement, they turn a nothing into a something. They turn to something extraordinary, and they turn something extraordinary into something incredibly unbelievable. All they needed was push. And some of these kids don't get that push. Whereas we may not have got pushed from our parents, but we got pushed from somebody in the neighborhood. I heard you going out for the basketball team. Go ahead, man. I see you out there putting up them shots. I see you guys always out there playing. Good luck. Go ahead, man. Go for it.
I always talk about this point with shout out to Tony Anthony Miller, my counselor, advisor at Now University, and also the family, because he got kids by my cousin. And one of the things, I was on academic probation at Now University, so don't get it twisted. Like I act like I went through there with straight A's. Hell no, it was a struggle. But I remember having a meeting. And he freaking roasted my ass, and I left the meeting and went to my room and cried at the edge of my bed. And then I said, I'm about to come back because he said, "What's gonna happen when you the oldest brother and your siblings, and they look at you and you got dismissed from college? How your mother or your grandmother gonna feel when you get dismissed because you want to be like these other fucking knuckleheads out here?" And that's the language he used. And I didn't say, "Oh, I'm going to report him for talking to me like that." I said, "All right." So I came back, and every good grade, the first couple good grades I had, went to his office and showed him, and then he said to me, "Why the fuck you keep bringing this shit over here to me?" And I said, "Because I'm doing better." And he was like, "Yo, you don't need to show me that shit, because I already know you could have did this all along. You ain't got to show me this shit. I already knew. I believed in you." So I had to respect that. Sometimes people already know and they can see what you're capable of doing. They're like, you just got caught out there. I already knew you could do this shit. So nothing you bring me surprises me about you. And that's the same thing. Like you already know, as parents, as teachers, as community leaders, sometimes you can see what's inside of someone and say, shit, it don't shock me. That's greatness right there.
Yeah.
That's greatness. And they might not see it. But when you tell them that and enough people tell them that, they say, shit, I'm about to be great. And they just got to walk it. Then again, it ain't always got to come from no church people. They just have to have enough consistent people in their life to say it. And sooner or later, they'll believe it. And they'll go on to greatness. And best believe those people that was responsible for it, you won't have to worry about nothing for the rest of your life.
Yeah. They will look out for you. Yeah.
But you got to be a part of that. A lot goes on in these generations, a lot of gaps, a lot of misconceptions. Uh, hey, we don't have the answers, despite what people try to say. Research says this, research says that. All this shit is a
Trial and
work
error.
in, all this is a work in
Mm-hmm.
progress, man.
Trial and error. I mean, especially when you have adults who have kids with two different mates. Nothing is going to be the same. And the funny thing about it is, let's take a father who has two different children by two different women, and he has custody of both of them. The oldest is a daughter, the youngest is a son. The son's 2 years younger. So let's say the daughter's 16. Daughter wants to go out dating. He just, no, you're not old enough. Conversely, the son's 14. He tells the son, yeah. People are going to say, well, why is he permitted to do things and she isn't? He's going to say, well, I say so. And he's a boy. I can trust him not to make poor decisions. And I can't trust her to make good decisions. And I'll say, well, she's 2 years older. How is she not making poor decisions? Well, when she was 14, she knew I was working overtime. She brought a boy in the house, violated the rules. Now, I didn't punish her, but I did reward her. That little boy, or the young boy she happened to bring over, I didn't know at the time he already had 2 kids. You think I wanted my daughter to be baby mama number 3? Nah. So now she can't go anywhere until I get home. The young man, he's all right until he makes a mistake. Then I got to come down on him. See, he's saying I give my kids the autonomy until they prove to me that they can't handle it. And once they prove that they can't handle it, it's taken away from them. Some people don't like that. But that's how this general parents.
So, I mean, we see how it is, and I always say that these conversations spin the block. So, when you think about it, again, one of the key words I always say is balance. Balance. Even when you think about discipline, that's always a big subject matter. Like, we grew up, you could potentially get your ass whooped. You knew it. But now, kids don't think they could get whooped. You can. It just can't be, and I always say this, it can't be obsessive. I mean, you don't want to sit and get whelps all over their bodies or a black eye, dotted eye, whatever the case is, then you're going to be opening yourself up for uh, some investigations.
Yep.
But you definitely have to know that people, you can still discipline your children. And one of the things between that approach used to happen when, you know, the baby boomers, whereas, Gen Xers said, hey, I grew up getting these ass whoopings or whatever. And sometimes these whoopings weren't even really whoopings like that. So let's be real. And they say to their kids, oh, you need to be on the timeout. You're on the timeout. Or give redirection over and over. And things of that nature to try to have positive reinforcement. But sometimes you look at it and you say, damn, some of these kids, they needed one good ass whooping would set them free. And, and maybe it's not happening now and they're not worried about it because you ed- and it's a positive thing too. You always want to educate kids on things because a lot of abuse has happened over the years. So you definitely, when somebody's hurting them, uh, that shouldn't be hurting them, well, maybe they should never be hurt. But sometimes parents may have to do what they have to do. But I think it leaves everything so like undefining. Like, okay, some parents like, so where's the middle ground? Well, I can't put my hands on them. I can't do this. I can't do that. And so a lot of times people kind of fall back on what as far as their discipline. And kids can smell that too if you're unsure of what you need to do. Her putting in that order. The Zing Wing special. Catch him every time. Oh man. So I don't know. This is more for discussion based, and sometimes you just don't uh, have that. No, we should try to. We should start pulling up on churches and start talking. Pulling up on churches. Who down for pulling up on churches? Coming in and be like, yo, we this is what we got to say. That'll be wild. I'm gonna let her order 50 waves, a medium fry, and a 2 liter. And we're gonna get ready to close the conversation out. I'm gonna watch me some NBA basketball and tie up some things I need to do for work. But yeah, so there's so many and again, like I said, we're far from done with this conversation because it's always going to be critical because as adults, many times we can't move forward because we're still stuck in childhood trauma and things of that nature. So all this stuff play a factor. So how was that? 50 wings, medium fry, in a 2 liter. How that work? How was that work?
Man, I am starving. I haven't ate all day, man. I'm trying to get back. It's funny. I was just telling somebody this earlier. My off days are always the most difficult because I eat now and I wake up during the middle of the night and I still want to eat because I'm starving because I'm in calorie restriction. So it's tough. But 80 pounds is the weight limit loss or the weight limit goal, and I'm gonna get there. Yes, I'm gonna have some Fat Boy fried wings. Full disclosure, I did get some wings. I only got 20, and I got a grilled chicken quesadilla. That's what I got. Now, I'm not gonna eat it all. I'm gonna eat the quesadilla. I'm gonna take in a movie. Gonna take in some more content from because there's just been so much going on with the Shador situation, with the Shannon Sharp situation. I mean, just and we're gonna get to. I know I'm sure I speak for David when I say this. We pride ourselves on not dealing with the salaciousness because that's easy stuff. Anybody can talk about that stuff. You don't have to dig deep. You don't have to be knowledgeable. You can sit there and talk about it. But how about tying it to something relevant? I mentioned earlier, gave the son to his father. We see what Deion's done with his father. A lot of people are talking about the racism in that, and if Deion was this and Deion was that. If Deion wasn't who he was, Shador would not be in the NFL. Let's get that out there. Let's get that straightforward and up there. Because if we look at the NFL when we came up, there's a lot of sons who are professional athletes because of their baby boomer fathers. I'm just going to drop a couple of them. Ken Norton Jr., Tony Dorsett, your man from the Raiders who has the two sons, Howie Long. It's endless, the number of people who are in the league. Matter of fact, Yannick Noah, the tennis player, Joakim Noah is his son. So there's a reason why I said give that son to his father, because if you want the man, then you got to give him to someone who can make him the man.
Sound about right. Work that ass out with him. No sleep
I ain't gonna read
tonight.
the comment. If you see it, you see it. Oh my gosh.
To die, that
Oh my
straight
God.
facts. Yeah, that's what he need. That's what he need. No, you ain't sleeping night after them 20 wings. Get your ass up.
Yeah. I'll probably, after the quesadilla, I'll probably eat about 6 or 7. That's okay. I'll have them for when I wake up. And if not, I'll take them to work. You know, whatever the case is. Yeah. Yeah. Even my cat's yelling at me. Stop eating, you fat boy.
Just some levity.
All right, people.
We always enjoy that. Any closing comments, whatever? Like we said, we know this subject. All this stuff is just going around. It's getting crazy, whatever. And you know why it's so crazy? Because y'all boy in office, Trumpster. Because it was quiet as hell for when Biden and it, but now everybody in the uproar. So many things just thrown out, and people are uncomfortable. They're uncomfortable. And I don't know. I guess why will you ever be comfortable no matter who's in office? But I contribute some of the stuff to the Trump factor on what's going on. But Herb, any closing comments?
People, when it comes to your children, literally, they are not just the future for you. They are the future for everyone. Give them the tools so that they can be better than what you were. Give them honesty so they know what honesty is. Be integral around them. Even if you have failed, we see that with Shannon Sharp. You can be a parent who makes immoral decisions, but you can imbue in your children to be moral. Because ultimately, that's going to be more important than what you do. How you teach is always, without fail, going to be more important than what you do. Like I said, I don't have kids, so far be it for me to tell you, those of you who do have children, how to parent. But I can tell you one thing. I've never told anybody wrong. And I've had people that have come up to me later and said, you know what? I didn't understand what you meant then, but I do now. And as always, it ain't matter. Truth lies somewhere in between. Growth and understanding. Godspeed. See you next time.
Yeah, me, I'm on the opposite. I have children. But I don't. What Daddy do on here is not to. I don't expose or anything. I don't use them for likes, shares, or anything. This is my own thing. Is some things is meant to be private. Uh, and you can't. You don't use the excuse of uh, it's family members who haven't seen them, so that's the reason why I post them on social media and all that stuff. That's our life, and you'll see like some millionaires and people like that. They keep all that stuff private,
Mm-hmm.
and that's just the way it is. So a lot of times when I'm speaking, I'm just gonna speak on in general, like my experiences uh, overall, professionally. Uh, I know some people may want to hear personal, but what I say, what I say professionally is what I feel personally. So I just it's not about exposing them or trying to put them on. I just kids are for the most part innocent. So when this social media craze came around, of course you could use some kids if you want to blow up the numbers and all that stuff, but that's I'm not in it for that. So I just want to be a beacon of light, or we want to use as a beacon of light to drop knowledge for folks to get an understanding and have open dialogue, because not everything we say is you may consider 100% right, but it's an opportunity to engage in conversation with different people, uh, different people besides your common people or your regular people that you talk to on a regular basis. And I think sometimes that's where people are falling short at. Uh, keep getting same feedback, regurgitated information from the same people. So where's the growth? Where's the understanding? The knowledge base coming from? So that's that. One of my little tangents to run off, but again, people, on to the next one. See you. Join the counselor's corner. It's always a heat up there. Uh, enjoy
Yes,
the
it
clips.
is.
Enjoy the clips. Comment or whatever, because I know attention spans are low, but sometimes it might be one point or something. You say, "Damn, I felt that." And sometimes that's all it takes is a little moment, a caption, a snapshot of something, and you feel it, and then you might want to acquire more. So that's where we're at. Just trying to be real, just trying to add conversations, tie in everything, but understand this. We both understand that some parts of our life, even though we can be vocal, you may not have access to. Uh, and that's just that. So accept it, deal with it. If you got any personal questions, inbox or whatever the case is, because you don't have to air out all your family business or all your business on social media on a daily basis.
Right.
And some of y'all do,
That's
and
definite.
that's where y'all hurting from. He said, "Have a wonderful week, good brothers. Godspeed." Definitely trying to, whatever.
Mhm.
Every week is a struggle. We try to pull through. It's always something. A lot of times it is. What I'm understanding, Jadid, as you get older, sometimes less is definitely more. The less people you have to talk to through the week is probably the more peace in your life. And that's just me. But others may think different. But that's me. But no. But whatever the case is, we out. On to the next one. Again, follow the counselor's corner.
Take care.
You'll see some of these conversations happening on a regular basis. to the point that I can't even keep up with putting them through. Because I got a whole lot of other stuff going on, but it's happening, so you'll understand where some of this content is coming from. All right, good people, y'all be good, be great. See you next time. Peace.
What?